We are live here with Representative Morelle out of New York 25. So as you guys pile in, hello, welcome, welcome. We are going to be talking about banning stock trading and general anti-corruption for Congress, which seems like it should be obvious, but for many people it is not. And so that is why we have Representative Morelle here to talk to us about it today. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. If you do have questions, please put them in the chat. I will do my best to keep an eye on it. But also, this recording will go out later. We'll put on clips later, and you're free to comment or reach out. And I know Representative Morelli's staff is always happy to hear questions, and we'll talk about how to get involved with his office later if you guys are so into that. But first of all, Representative Morelle, thank you so much for joining me today on this. I don't know how it is up in DC. Down here it's cloudy, so a little gloomy, but
It's well, when you come from Rochester, New York, like I do, if you're anywhere where there's not a foot of snow and blowing wind in your face, it feels balmy to me. So it's like I think 50 and overcast, but that to me is like spring.
you're like, this is great. I
Yeah,
am
this is great.
I originated in Chicago, so I know what you mean. It's like
Yeah,
in January, this could be a lot worse. So I should probably stop complaining.
yeah.
Yes, no, that makes perfect sense. Okay, so let's game this out. Get right into it. We've got two bills going on right now. Two, I'm sure there's many, but two main ones happening at this particular time. One is the Stop Insider Trading Act, which is sponsored by Republican Brian
Style.
Style. I was
Style.
feeling it. Brian's
It
Style
doesn't
out of
sound like
Wisconsin.
it's spelled, which is why it's like one of those names that
Right,
style, Brian
exactly.
Style.
Brian Style out of Wisconsin, and he has already advanced that out of committee. But you are sponsoring a different bill, and right now that is subject to a possible discharge petition. So first of all, please tell us why we've got two different animals going on, and what the differences are. Why you feel like your bill is maybe a better fit for what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And when people look at this, they'll always wonder like, well, what's the difference? And why don't you just, do one or do the other? And does it make a big difference? But there are big differences. So first and foremost, I think the what we're trying to accomplish, what I'm trying to accomplish and my colleagues, and I've worked with a number of Democrats that you would know from the House on this. We believe firmly that at this moment in American life, people have real mistrust of the federal government. And that's not to say, even as a Democrat and as a proud Democrat, it's not that people are like, "Oh, we're so excited about the Democrats right now, and we're opposed to the Republicans." I think people are just uneasy about everything. They're worried about their own lives. They're worried about their kids. They're worried about their jobs. They're worried about the ability to pay their bills. They're worried about, elderly parents and grandparents and how to take care. There's a lot going on in the world, and I think um, there's growing feeling that people in Washington just aren't paying attention, that we don't have their interests at heart, that what we're doing is we're into the self-dealing. You come to Washington, now you get information on stocks and industries and companies, and so you're investing in them and you're making a lot of money and you've forgotten about us, which is a fair point.
Mhm.
And if you have that, particularly in a democracy, as you know, you need to rely on the support of the people to be able to govern. I mean, this is how the system is built, and so a lot of what I'm saying is going to be obvious, but you can't lose confidence in people if you expect them to follow you, if you expect them to have a degree of trust in the government. And one of the worst things is if people feel as though you're self-dealing, you got problems. So what Democrats in the House want to do is ban the ability for members of Congress, for the president, the vice president, members of the Supreme Court to own individual stocks, to try to trade on stocks. Oh, I got information that there's going to be a military contract for company X, so I rush out and buy 10,000 shares of stock. It must necessarily cause people to wonder, well, who are you looking out for? Is it the company? Is it yourself? Or is it us? So Democrats want to ban it outright. That's what our bill. I've worked with Seth Magaziner from Rhode Island, um, Pramila Jayapal, my friend from the state of Washington, and others and leadership in our House to put on a bill that would stop the ability, require the divestment of securities for members of Congress, the president, the vice president. I would like to extend it to the Supreme Court as well.
Agreed. Hard agree, by the way.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. And to me, there's no middle ground. And what the Republicans are trying to do now is to trying to say, well, we can't go all that way, but we're going to stop insider trading. Except the bill doesn't do that. Yes, the bill limits your ability to buy individual stock. It doesn't require you to divest. You can still sell at any time. And if you make dividends, you own 1,000 shares of Microsoft, they put out a dividend, you can buy more Microsoft stock. So you can continue to buy, hold, sell. And in my mind, it's a binary choice. Are we allowing members to buy individual stock and hold it and trade, or are we not? And you can try to, sort of dance around it and then try to make people believe something, but that's simply not true. The other thing their bill doesn't do, it doesn't rein in the president at all,
Okay.
which
Of course not. Right.
right, right. I mean,
Right.
I guess that's given their political posture these days, you would find that understandable and still reprehensible.
No.
I mean, the president of the United States 3 months ago, as president, bought up to $1 million of Warner Brothers bonds, corporate
Mhm.
bonds. And right now, as you know, as many of the people tuning in know, Warner Brothers is in the middle of a big merger, and their suitor is Netflix. But Jared Kushner went to private equity to get money into a deal to allow Paramount, owned by Trump confidant Larry Ellison's son, to up the price. So the son-in-law of the president is helping a company drive up the price of bonds, corporate bonds that the president just bought.
Correct. Yes.
And then when you're all done with that, by the way, no matter where it goes, whether it's Netflix or Paramount, um, it still has to go in front of the FCC
Correct.
and get the approval of the president's handpicked sycophant,
Yes.
Brendan Carr, and
Mhm.
other. So this is like, I mean, really, I mean, this is the big kahuna. This is conflict. This is insider trading, and so I can't plausibly feel good about a bill that doesn't include the president, the vice president, and frankly, members of the Supreme Court, because they ought to be held to a standard instead of some, code of ethics, which is even not even enforceable. So it's time to get serious. And I think, look, people will say, well, why should you have to sacrifice as a member of Congress? Look, I'm blessed. I'm a member of Congress. It's an enormous privilege to be able to represent 770,000 of my neighbors. And so I'm willing to say, look, there's certain things I can't take advantage of because I know more than the average person. And whether it's true in fact or whether it's true because they feel it is, if you feel I have an advantage, then I have an advantage. It's as simple as that. So the other thing the Republican bill allows is you could still buy commodities and futures contracts, and you can continue to participate in the crypto space. I mean, President Trump and his family are making billions
Yes.
in the crypto space. So,
Mhm.
you've got exhibit A of why this is bad for America. And remember, Donald Trump, I mean, I don't have to remind you, but Donald Trump was going to clean the swamp. He was going to drain the swamp. The
Yes.
guy's built a second story, added a parking garage, a golf course, and who knows what else. I mean, he owns the swamp now. He is the swamp. I mean, he didn't come to drain it. And, no one in probably in American history, no president has ever, ever, ever taken advantage of the office and turned it into a basically printing money as Donald Trump is. So that's the other reason that I'm just offended by the bill that they're purporting to say cleans up politics in Washington, what does nothing of the sort.
Right. No, that all makes perfect sense. Your comment about commodities really struck me because, I mean, those, we're talking about like the precious metals, for instance, that's where it's at right now, because of all of the market uncertainty that, again, has been caused by the very administration that we are talking about right now, has caused everybody to run into commodities and especially precious metals. And it's like, so we can create all of these storms and chaos that we know will have, X result over here. And then it's like, oh, look, I just bought a bunch of gold recently. That's a coincidence, like, come on.
Well, look at it. By the way, if I'm sure it's not a secret to people. Venezuela is not really about Maduro. It's not about drugs. It's
Yeah.
not about democracy. It's about oil. The
Right.
crude price has changed dramatically in the last week and a half. It would not shock me if there are Trump family members or members of the administration who are purchasing oil futures. And, oh, by the way, also Greenland, as much as it has strategic influence in terms of its geography, it also has rare earth metals. So you could never trust, unfortunately, this White House that there aren't deals being made left and right.
Right.
And even, prosecutors, Janine Pirro just bought 15,000 shares of Shopify, even as they're facing headwinds about their business practices. So, if you're really going to give confidence to people, you got to say, okay, enough is enough. We're drawing a bright red line, and no member of Congress, no Supreme Court justice, no member of the president's administration. I'd like to extend it to cabinet members as well, certainly the president and the vice president.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense to me. I mean, I think that anything that doesn't extend to all three branches, like you were just talking about, is amiss. You're going to have a leak somewhere. Yeah, so we could go on and on about this. It's I've done a lot of reporting on Venezuela, and what's going to be interesting is when the 13Fs finally come out in a couple of months for this particular quarter, then we will know. But and that's, I think, where the rub is. I've heard the argument a lot of like, well, you have to disclose those things anyway. It's like, yeah, later,
After
like
the fact.
after
After
the
the
fact,
fact.
right?
And by the way,
Yeah,
disclosure is one thing. I mean, you have to disclose in Congress that you have to buy stock. Okay, well, that's great.
right.
By the way,
What?
if you have inside information disclosing that you made the stock trade when there's no accountability for the fact that you shouldn't have been buying in the first place because you know information, it doesn't have any impact on it. It's just, okay, disclosure. I mean,
Right.
yeah, it's better than not having disclosure, I guess, but it doesn't stop bad behavior. And that's what we really need to get to.
Awesome. So you want to do what's called a discharge petition, which I think what's funny is like if anyone didn't know what it was before this year, now you do know because it's been in the news so many times. But for the uninitiated, it's when you get a plurality of representatives to sign and say that they want it to go to the floor. That doesn't necessarily mean they're passing it, of course. It means that they're saying that it will come up for a vote.
Yeah, I mean, in real terms, the technical is discharging the committee of responsibility from its responsibility. So we discharge it out of committee, even though the members of the committee didn't get together and make a decision to discharge it. And we do it, to your point, you do it when there's a log jam and you're not getting, even when you believe a majority of members of the House want a bill considered, um, you do it so that it once you get to 218, a majority of the House, then it's required to be considered. And that's how we, in fact, as you know, got the bill on tax credits for the Affordable Care Act done last week. More majority of members required it to be put on the House floor. What's really interesting is in a normal legislature, a normal period, you'd
Mhm.
never really hear of a discharge. To your point, it'd be like some kind of trivia question. What's a discharge petition? But given the do nothing Congress, it's becoming it's being used more and more,
Right.
and I think you see the growing frustration of even some Republicans at the
Mhm.
unwillingness of leadership to put bills on the floor. So we're going to start collecting signatures midweek. I think is when it's live and able to be signed, and we're going to continue to push people on both sides. Certainly, I think Democrats will be lining up. It'll be interesting to see whether or not we can get all the Republicans who profess to want to do this, whether we
Mhm.
can get them to sign it as well.
Okay, amazing. So people who are listening now or will be listening to the recording later, which will be emailed out to all of our followings, but the name of the game is calling your rep and saying, I expect to see your signature on that discharge petition. Otherwise, I think you're full of crap when you say that you believe in anti-corruption and banning stock trading and like all that kind of thing. So there's the action item for my people who I know love action items. Moving forward,
And by the way,
oh, go ahead.
may I say one other thing, Kate? Because you're absolutely right. Not only to call them to tell them to sign the discharge petition, but also so that they know if the response is, well, don't worry, Representative Style has a bill that requires, it doesn't require divestment,
Right.
nothing of the sort. So I know it was a way for Speaker Johnson to get around the tricky issue of worried about that members were going to sign a discharge and get the bill on the floor. This is a little bit of a misdirection play. So they should be armed with that knowledge as well. It's not only about signing this, but being able to have an answer when they say, oh, the style bill does the same thing. It does nothing of the
It does
sort.
not. It
So
does
thank
not
you.
require divestment, and it does not penetrate all three branches of government, which is
Correct.
correct. Awesome. So thank you for double clicking on that point. Moving forward, you were talking about how Congress is pretty log jammed in general. This is not the only legislative priority that has not seen the momentum it needs to see because things have become so very much like, does the president want it or not? And that's what the majority party is currently towing for the most part, of course, led by the speaker, as you were just mentioning. Um, Speaker Johnson is a byword, and on my platform at least. Now we have midterms this year. This is 2026, and the entire House of Representatives is up for re-election as per our Constitution in November. Primaries are starting right this minute. We are in it. In case any of y'all didn't realize this already.
Yeah.
Representative Morelle, what would you like to say about midterm season for yourself and in general for 2026?
It's always funny. People will say to me, "You have to run every other year. Like, isn't that a burden?" There are challenges to it, but the one thing it requires of us, we're always in touch with people we represent. If you stray, and you're not paying attention to people back home, they have a way of letting you know. So I'm looking forward to. I love knocking on doors. I've been doing it for many years, and I really, really always appreciate the opportunity to engage. So I'm looking forward to the campaign. I'm looking forward to hearing ideas from people, listening to their frustrations,
Mhm.
listening to what, the concerns that they and their family members have. And I'm really looking forward to working in the midterms with colleagues around the country. We have to win. I really think, I know it's overused, this is existential. I mean, you just see it in the last week with Venezuela, when you see it in Minnesota, which is I can't even, I mean, the heartbreak for everyone
Yeah.
to be living through this moment. And my colleagues in Minnesota and represent Minneapolis. But it's not just there. It's going to grow elsewhere. I mean,
Right.
this is getting to the point of just, um, I, I I never thought I'd see it in America. It's tragic to see it anywhere, but in America,
Yeah.
um, so, we're going to go out and we're going to do everything we can to win these midterms and at least begin rebuilding America, the America that we all, you know, came to with all of its challenges. And
Right.
we've had challenges throughout our history, but I always feel like we're pointed in the right direction. May take us, it's maybe not even a straight line. We might take a step back, a step forward, step back, two steps forward, but moving in the right direction. And this is just um, unfathomable to me. So there's a lot of work to be done over the next, I guess, now 10 months.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to your point, we're in it, man. We're in it already.
Right there. So when is your are you in a primary situation that you know of or
Not that I know of.
okay.
I'm getting designations when I go through my local committees,
Okay.
um, so that's good. But I'm always mindful of look. A lot of people want to come to Washington for the best of reasons. They want to help, and even if that means running primaries, which I don't encourage, by the way, in any way, shape, or form. But that's a part of life. You have to be able to not only uh, win the confidence of people in your party, but you have to win the confidence of enough people in your district to get elected. That's the beauty of the system.
Yes, absolutely. I saw a comment, town halls in Stefanik's district. So this is New York 25 is Representative Morelli. So
Yes, yes.
a different district. But I will you are you all as a New York caucus, are you planning to, or I should say congressional delegation, are you planning on doing any foot stomping in that soon to be former district?
Yeah, actually, we've spent my campaign is spent during the summer, and now we just had our winter training camp, boot camp. We're training volunteers in Rochester on campaign techniques. Um, Not really as much for me, although I would call on them if needed. But we're going to be in Pennsylvania. We're going to be in other parts of upstate New York. When it's existential and you're not just saying it, and it's real and it feels real. And I think we all feel this is real.
Mhm.
We got to be doing everything we can to win seats all across America. So I'm looking forward to traveling. I'm going to talk about corruption in government. I'm going to talk about reforms. I think Leader Jeffries, hopefully soon to be Speaker Jeffries, is going to lead, and I'm going to help him with what I think is the single most significant reforms in government since Watergate. So we're preparing every day for our opportunity to have the gavels and to begin to really get the government to start fighting for the American people, not fighting against them.
Amazing. Love it. Where can people find you as we enter midterm season? Because it's gonna get fast.
That's really a good question. I wish I could tell you what my campaign. This is terrible. How embarrassing. How embarrassing. Morelle,
I
I
will
think
put
it's.
links when I send out the recording, everybody, I will put all the links to
Thank you.
campaign materials and
Thank you.
election dates and all that kind of stuff like I do normally with all the other content as
Thank you.
well.
But this is a good point that I should be reminded of what my campaign's website is. I think it's Morelle for Congress. I don't know. That's
Perfect.
incredibly creative.
Google is free, so we can figure it out too. But yeah, so we will make sure, like I said, I'll in the post-op of this video when I send it out, be sure to put a list of links where to find you, and I also put all the upcoming election dates, voter registration dates, like all that kind of stuff for New York. That way, people can make sure that they're getting out the vote, volunteering with y'all, and doing
Thank
this.
you. Thank you. And I would just say to the folks that are tuning in, there are ideas on government reforms that they think are important or that have been long overdue. Send us ideas. We're in the formative stages. It's a big basket of things that we're working with all of my colleagues to develop, but and it will impact the courts, Supreme Court. It's going to impact the executive branch, the Congress, and then the election system. Get dark money out of politics. End Citizens United. Make sure that we're working on voting rights because the Supreme Court is about ready to try to disenfranchise millions of Americans. So all of that will be a part of this effort. I'm really proud of it and so grateful to work with all my colleagues and outside groups, civil society groups, civil rights groups have been terrific in stepping up. So, and can I just give a pitch? Thank you for doing what you do. I mean, this is really it's important. I mean, journalism in the 21st century is so much different than it was, but it's never been more important. And people who take the time to do this and engage, both you and the people who tune in, it's so good for America and good for our future.
Absolutely. It's something that I started doing by accident last year, but I'm really enjoying it so far, and the tragedies notwithstanding, as you were just mentioning. Also, we're gonna have to have a follow-up conversation because the fact that you talk about the Supreme Court as much as you do makes me so happy.
Yeah.
There's so much to be said about things that because I think it gets cloaked in like this legalese, like behind the black curtain, what happened there. It's like, no, actually, there's just some really common sense things like you were talking about that need to happen. But that would start a whole other hour of lecture. And I know you do not have time for that this evening. Representative Morelle, best of luck with the discharge petition. People call your representatives if you want to move this forward because it's the only way it's going to happen. But luckily, this nuance and rules that used to be something nobody knew about has become a very effective tool in moving forward policy. So that is wonderful. Have a great evening, and here we go into midterms.
Hey, thanks so much. Thanks for having me on your show.
Of course. Have a good one.
Take care.